I have a personal connection to Domaine de Pousse. One of our guests this evening, who's arriving a little later to the live event, is the journalist and good friend of mine, Kate Spicer. And Kate and I originally met because she was desperate to source some bottles of 1996 Domaine de Pousse because she had unwittingly drunk a number of them at a friend's house, and they were the absolute favorite wine of her friend's father. This was about 20 years ago, I should point out. They were the favorite wine of her friend's father, and she really needed to replace them before he found out. So this was my introduction to the Domaine. I quickly found out quite a lot about it, including that it wasn't easy to get hold of the 96. In fact, it had all but sold out. And it was the last vintage of the previous owning family, the Potel family, before Benoit's family bought the Domaine in 1997. An incredibly long and illustrious history. The chateau itself dates back to the 1700s, and the Domaine was once part of a much larger domain. One of the famous owners was Monsieur Duval-Blochet, and it used to be part of a larger domain which included such fellow luminary vineyards as Clos de Tart and Domaine Romanèe Conti. So in very, very good condition and very, very good company. I think it behoves me to pass over to Benoit to talk about his family and his family's history with the estate, rather than have me do it. Seems a real waste to have him on. But just to say once again, Benoit, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. And tell us a little bit more about the Domaine, and then lead us into the first wine, please. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So thank you, Charlie and Tom, and Honest Grape team to organize such a interesting tasting live. There are persons together on me in France. And I would like to thank you also to thank the journalists and the passionate of wine to attend. So my name is Benoit Landager, and I am in the Domaine now since 1997, and I'm making the vinification since 2013, 1-3. I am in charge now of the Domaine since my dad stopped since 2018. So I will make a short history of the Domaine because Tom did it very well. The Domaine was belongings, the vineyards belongings to the Duke of Bourgogne until the 15th century. And after they went to the King of France until the 18th century. And after that, it has been all the time to private people. So Tom mentioned Duval-Blochet, it's true. So the Domaine was part of the Romanèe Conti, Clos de Tart, many prestigious domains. They went also in the hand of Monsieur Audignac, and Audignac was a family, a name of a family who bought the domain right after the revolution in 1789, and the vineyards in front of the parcel has his name. And this is really not usual in Burgundy, that a name was given to a vineyard. And since 1997, my dad take over the domain, and I really believe that we will be a small line in the page of a very big book of the story of the domain, because I'm sure that in some centuries people will still during some La Pousse d'Or, even if we are not there anymore. but we are part here. So today, what is the domain? The domain is 18 hectares. There is 5 Grand Cru, and there is 11 Premier Cru. The domain is closed to public. We only receive professional journalists, and we are located from Côte de Beaune to Côte de Nuit. So we have one white wine that we will test, and there is another one which is a Chevalier Montrachet, and after it's all red, mainly Volnay, Pommard, Corton, and we do have also Chambolle, and on Morée with Le Clos de la Roche. And since now, last year, I have one Gevrey Perrière, which is a Premier Cru. And I give you news from this year, from this vendange, which we start tomorrow. So I am in the preparation of this vendange. We will do Échezeaux and so Échezeaux Grand Cru, you know, and a Charme Chambertin in Gevrey. So we will have 2 more Grand Cru to work on. And this is really our focus, and is to represent Côte de Beaune, Côte de Nuit as much as possible with a very high obsession of quality. And this year, I think it's an interesting year for this to show this obsession, is that the quantity will be very, very low. Because we have this gel, in France, gel, it's
the frosts, the really bad frosts, yeah.
We had the frost on the April 7, and usually we can manage, you know, we put fire, we make smoke, we heat the vineyards, we can manage when it's -1, -2, with difficulties -3, but it went to -7 degrees. And at -7 degrees, you can do whatever you want. You can dance, nude, whatever. It kills what has been out. And because of March was very warm, April take half of our production, and especially in Côte de Beaune, definitively. So it will be difficult to find white wine in every domain in 2021, but not too much in Côte de Nuit. You know, Côte de Nuit is on the north of Côte de Beaune, and we usually said that there is 1 week of difference in the maturity, and it is a good example because this week was very important to have. On Côte de Nuit, is not too much impact by the frost. So I don't want to be too long. I just want to finish by saying that we are biodynamics in 2014, and one particularity of the domain is that we have the chance to be on the hill, and being on the hill, we have 6 levels of gravity. So we will be able, if we want, to use absolutely no pump to work. And Pinot Noir is very fragile variety. So by having this gravity, we start tomorrow. So I am at the higher level now. So the grape will come here and go slowly to every steps to the bottle at the lower level in 1.5 years, 2 years. And this is really, really a good, I will say, the project that my dad did 20 years ago, is to use the full hill as much as possible.
Fantastic. Now, Benoit, if you would take us through onto the first wine, the Puligny Cailleret. Everyone, please pour that and drink if you haven't already, or taste, I should say. Taste first, then drink. You know, of all the Premier Cru Puligny Montrachet sites, Cailleret is certainly one of the most prestigious, and I have no doubt that's largely due to its extraordinary position and site. So, Benoit, please tell us more about the vineyard itself, and of course your particular version of it.
So, Le Cailleret in Puligny Montrachet, you have to know that it should be a Grand Cru. And if you go in front of it with your car or bicycle, you will see that there is a nice wall on it. It's written Puligny Montrachet Cailleret Grand Cru, and it's written since decades. Because when they did this organization in 1947, 1938, they choose to put it in Grand Cru. But there was some vineyards inside with red plants, so they decided not to put it in Grand Cru, but to put it only in Premier Cru. And you have to know that at that time, they don't really care about Premier Cru, Grand Cru. So this was a decision which was done. But if you take a map and you look all the Grand Cru in Puligny Montrachet, you will see that they stop, and after it directly Le Cailleret. So what we have in Cailleret is 0.7 hectares, so it's quite a very nice parcel. And all the plants was planted in 1976 I know that you like this year, Tom.
Yeah, magnificent. What an amazing wine. And I mean, I have it here. I mean, the incredible color as well. We are focusing this evening almost exclusively on the 2018 vintage. So perhaps now would also be a good time, whilst talking about the flavors and the aromas and the wine profile, to tell us about the extraordinary 2018 vintage as well.
So in your introduction, you spoke about the 1976. 1976, if you remember, it was a very warm year, especially in France, because they had a new tax. You know that France is very innovative to make new tax, and put a new tax because they were so warm to help all the growers, all people working outside. It was too warm that they put a new tax because a lot of a lot of normal farming had some problem. 76 was really exuberant here, and there is some comparison with 2018 because when you are looking 76 in the middle of the 18, it was incredible. But if you are looking 2018, 2019, 2020, we had so much warm year that if 1976 was coming in the middle, I'm not sure we will look at it so surprisingly. And 2018 was really an exuberant year because it was very, very hot summer and we had absolutely no rain. And it was very difficult for us. And I remember it was very difficult to choose the date of the vendange, of the harvest. Tomorrow I'm starting. And what I have in hand to choose, of course you can test. You have the sugar level, which gives you the alcohol, but you have the acidity. And when you are in a year like this, which is so warm, as sugar get very high, very quickly, and the acidity is getting down very quickly. So you had to make decision, which is not usual, like, for example, to do the vendange in end of August. And to keep this freshness that we like in the wine, I have decided to make it a little bit earlier. You have to know that in Volnay, usually we are all time the lastest to start the vendange. I think everyone has started in Volnay, and I'm just starting tomorrow. Maybe there's one domain or two, but I'm not sure. I think everyone started already. But in 2018, I was the first. So everyone came and said, what you are doing? And I think this year we didn't make a mistake because we have not too much maturity that you could have very quickly. And also in some 1976 on Potel make a very good wine, and I had the chance to drink some. The date was very good and there was not too much maturity, but there is really a link, comparison between a hot year like 76 or 18.
And funnily enough, Benoit, 1976 and 2018 will be of great interest for lovers of English wine because it was two of the great English wine vintages as well. So I would love to get your opinion both on some of the 1976 English reds that are still around, but also the 2018 Pinot Noirs that have come out of sort of Sussex and Kent and Hampshire. I think that they're going to start giving you a run for your money in a few years, but 18 is very, very good. Excellent. So I hope you've all been enjoying the Puligny Cailleret. If you have any comments, then please do use the chat. Let us know what you think. For those of you joining us from the live session from Karen House, good to see you. I can only see a small number of you, but I know there's a veritable COVID-safe horde gathered. Then please do do wave and say hello. And now we will move rapidly on to our first red, sticking with the 2018 vintage, but moving across to the Côte de Nuit and to this lovely, very soft, supple, beautifully perfumed Chambolle-Musigny. So Benoit, tell us about the Chambolle, please.
So Chambolle-Musigny, we usually said that Volnay, it's a feminine wine of Côte de Beaune. Chambolle is definitively the feminine wine in Côte de Nuit. And as you see, it's our only village. And at one time we had to make a decision: should we keep to have one village in such nice line, or not? Or it makes sense only to have Premier Cru and Grand Cru. And to make our decision, we open a bottle. and believe me, the thing is, Chambolle-Musigny, it's every time good. Whichever you take the year, it's quite amazing place. It's almost all the village of Chambolle-Musigny, it's every time good. So we decided that it was really part of the family, and we decided, of course, to keep it. So it's complex for us because it's not one nice parcel, like we would like to. It's a bunch of very small parcel everywhere. So to work is quite difficult, but the advantage, it gives you a really a typical village of Chambolle. It's not on one side, it's really a multiplied side. So we have 1.4 hectares. And the plant, 10% one plant in also 1976, and mainly 80% was planted in 85 to 91, on 10% in 93. So they are already middle old vineyards.
And so Benoit, this is your only village level wine, which I must admit I hadn't realized that. Now I look at the list of vineyards. Of course, it is, but even the Santenay you have is a Premier Cru. So yeah, that's you also make Chambolle Charme and an Amoureuse as well. So clearly for you, perhaps is the link between your heart being in Volnay, where you make these wonderfully kind of perfumed, supple, elegant wines. Do you think there's that natural link between Volnay and Chambolle? Is that why you enjoy those vineyards?
I think when you are based in Volnay, or you make Volnay, or you drink Volnay, you have a special link. But after the lives give you some chance, and we had the chance to bought those parcels in Chambolle. There was in 2008. So I think sometimes, the life makes some chance that you should not miss. And we were so happy to bring those to the Domaine. And I really think they match very well with our philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. This was from the sale of Domaine Moine Udelot, I believe, that their vineyards came from.
Very well, huh?
Yeah, very good, very good. And that's fascinating for me to learn this evening that you will be adding, was it an Echezeaux and a Chambertin as well to the and will those be Domaine bottled wines or Maison bottled wines?
So they what we called, we would buy the grape, but the vineyards are done by my family, or we have in our family the vineyards.
Right.
So it's not like a typical company, like a negociant, who buy grapes where he wants. Where I can't, mainly. It's more that we manage everything, and we manage the vineyards, and after it's more a process of paper. But yes, we will manage everything, so you will not see the difference.
Understood. Excellent. Good. Well, we'll leave the Côte de Nuit for the rest of the evening. Our brief foray north, and we'll head back south, right into the heart of the domain, and we'll move on to wine number 3, which is the first of the 2 Volnay Cailleret. So this should be, I think, really rather fascinating. Sorry,
Tom, it's Tom Nathan here. Can you get me?
Yep.
We're going a little bit fast for the live event. So maybe Charlie was more generous with the pause than the test tubes for the people on Zoom. So to stall and give everybody a chance to catch up and let Charlie get the first Volnay. Benoit, can I ask you something about, this is the only Côte de Nuit wine we're having today. What are there any differences in the way you vinify it and your approach to Chambolle from your approach to Volnay in terms of coaxing the best out of it in this rather fleshy year of 2018?
I didn't understand. I'm sorry.
I was asking about your approach to Chambolle. Is this any different from your approach to Volnay to get the best out of the wine in the wine?
No, I do not think so. I do not think so. Côte de Beaune, Côte de Nuit are very small. The main thing is to be everywhere in this area to understand the difference. And sometimes it helps, in fact, because when you know that in Côte de Beaune there is 3 days to 1 week in advance, it can help you to manage also Côte de Nuit. I will personally live in Gevrey-Chambertin soon. I think the point is to be near the vineyard, and definitively on the area where you are. I would love also to live in Volnay, but the thing is that there's nothing to sell. I think to be where the things where your patient is the most important.
And actually, Benoit, as we're moving on to the meat of the matter, as it were, and as Nathan's raised this in terms of winemaking style, as we move through these wines, could you tell us a little bit about the use of whole bunch fermentation or destemming, the amount of oak, the type of oak you use, and what percentage of new oak? All these good things, which I think some people at least are dying to know.
Yes, so it depends on the year, of course, but mainly, so we like to have ripe grape, as you understand. We mainly destemmed all, only to have a small base, which we make a cold maturation. So it means that you put it in the tank and you just wait. We really believe, I fairly believe that everything is done, if everything is done properly in the vineyards, and of course the weather is there, everything is in-house, the job would be very easy. So our idea is more to make an education of the wine like a kid. It means that let it go, and we should be here just to say, oh, here is a mistake, go on the line, oh, you are going too far. And this is what we are doing. So in fact, it's incredibly simple. We put the grapes in the tank and we wait. And one day to another, between 3 to 7, 8 days, they will start slowly. And this is what we like, very slowly. Things has to be very slow. We have time. We don't have a lot of grape. We don't have a lot of vineyard. So we don't have to push out one, to put another one. So we have time. And after the alcoholic fermentation, we start very slowly. You will see the sugar moving to alcohol. You will see this hat on the top growing and being more hard. You will feel that the CO2 getting out, and then we will help to work to move or to how can I say to help the tank to work properly.
but absolutely not saying, oh, we have to push, we have to I decide what's going to be the wine. No, the wine decide who it will be. We are just here to manage that everything is doing properly. And usually we, except to control, we don't do too much things, but we have to control a long time. And when the wine is finished, I mean, the alcoholic fermentation, so it's 21 days, then we will directly use the gravity to go in the barrel. And in the barrel, they will stay between 12 to 15 months. It depends. We taste it, and sometimes less, sometimes more. It's just a test which tell you, okay, now it's ready. After the barrel, we put in a big tank to assemble the small barrel. For example, if you take Clos d'Audignac, if there is 7 barrels, then those 7 barrels you put in a small tank so that you have the same wine in the bottle. And in this tank, what you will do, you will stay maybe 1 month to 3 months, 4 months, it depends also, and then directly to a level of gravity directly in the bottle. So in fact, the principle is absolutely very, very easy.
Yeah. Brilliant, Benoit. Well, hopefully that's given everyone a chance at Taylor House to finish their Chambolle-Musigny. I'm suggesting smaller pours for the rest of the tasting, and you can always come back and try your favorites after. Think of us with our little vials here, please. So moving on now to the first of the pair of Volnay Cailleret. Please tell us about this wonderful vineyard. We'll start with the 18, and then we'll try the 2009 by comparison.
So, Les Caillerets, it's a very famous vineyard in Volnay. There is a very old sentence saying that if you don't have Cailleret in your cave, you don't know what is a Volnay. And so it's a very famous vineyard. It's quite in the middle of Volnay, downhill. Our parcel is 2.24 hectares, so it's quite a big size for Burgundy. And 2/3 was planted 40 years ago, and 1/3 was planted in 89. So we are also in a 30, 40 years old vineyards, which is very good.
And the composition of the vineyard here, is it a lot of limestone? Is there a bit more clay? You know, what's underneath or permeating the roots?
Yeah, so on the hill, my English is not as good, so I have to. So it's a subsoil of Arjovian limestone marl,
right?
With clay limestone scree in place. That's the exact name. Of course, there is a lot of small stone, like typical in the middle, down in Volnay, but after you will have less stone. But it's mainly yes.
And Benoit, your particular parcel or parcels in Cailleret, do they stretch the length of the vineyard? Are they nearer the top, nearer the bottom? Whereabouts are they?
So Cailleret it's from the middle of Volnay to Meursault. And those one is very near the Champagne. Yeah. So it's right on the it's on the top north side.
Okay. And sorry, your specific vines within the vineyard are
within the vineyards. They are the maximum on the north of the complete Cailleret.
I see. And what therefore would that give to the wine? What would differentiate your Cailleret as a result from another grower?
You know, it's not 1 or 2 points; it's thousands of points. When we are biodynamic, so if one of my neighbor is not, then we are already our way so different. And after the weight, it's, I mean, the treatment,
Everything that you are doing in the vineyards is so different that you don't have the same grape. And after the vinification, someone can work a lot the grapes. Someone can say no, I don't want to be active. I want to be more passive. So there's thousands of reasons. I would say that the main difference is when you drink it, and you can see the difference. You like it or you don't like it, or you like both. But at least you see a nice difference.
Perfect. Do we have any comments live or on the chat here? Here we go. I missed one here from Igor, just asking Benoit, can you tell us about the Cailleret Soissons Oeuvres versus the normal, the Cailleret? What's the difference between those two cuvées?
Yes, so Clos des 60 Ouvrais is the parcel at the opposite side of our Cailleret. Is for me probably one of the best parcels in Volnay. So it's a monopole. It means that we are alone to have this parcel. And on the name 60 Ouvrais, it's in fact one Ouvrais. We speak, it's our scale in France. We are speaking with Ouvrais. One Ouvrais is what a man can do of work in vineyards per day. And if we rent, we buy, we sell vineyards, we speak in Ouvrais still today. So 60 ouvrais, so this you have an idea of the surface. So it's a little bit more than 2 hectares, and it's a parcel which is touching Meursault, in fact, and it's a little bit more on the middle top hill from the Cailleret that we are having now.
And I suppose without having it here in front of us to taste the difference, to Benoit's previous point, I think it would really be a matter of subjective opinion as to how different the two taste next to each other. We will, for our next Pousse d'Or tasting, we might have to do a mini horizontal, a mini vertical of the Soissons Ouvrais. So that'll be this time next year. We'll bring that in. So Igor, make sure you're here for that one, and then you can compare the two. Talking of comparisons, we will move on to the 2009 shortly. But Benoit, you started talking earlier. We talked about the very hot 1976 vintage. You've talked about the trio of 18, 19, and 20 vintages, all being different, but with certainly a serious degree of warmth. They were all solar vintages in their way. Now, 2009 fits very much in this same category. It was another very warm, hot year. But how do you feel that the wines and your approach to making wines differed in 2009 compared to 2018?
Yes, 2009 is definitively a sunny year. Okay, like 19. The main difference is 18 was exuberant by 2 points. We had no rain at all, no rain, and the quantity, because we had a perfect spring, was huge. So the nature was very generous in 18. So we had a beautiful spring, and in summer, every time we are saying, oh, it's going to rain next week. 1st of July, 7th July, 15th July. And to the end, said, it's never going to rain. We have to take the grapes, and this decision was hard. In 19, and also in 20, it was more predictable because we had a normal, I will say, very warm year, very warm, but we had some water, which allow us to predict when we should go in the vineyards and
it was not so exuberant. I think 76, 18 makes sense to compare. After we definitively have some warm year, and 09, 19, and we can also make a comparison with 99. I mean, you know, every year in 9, we said it's good year in Burgundy. 49, 59, 69, 79, 99. So it's a very warm year. I think it gives you a very good example of what a 2009 wine could be, and also the 18, what it will be about around in 10 years, is this sunny taste. But 18 is really different from the others.
And it's a good question that you raise in my mind, Benoit, when you're talking about the aging of your wines and the maturity of them. Of course, it varies vintage to vintage, but how long would you typically leave your Volnay Cailleret before opening bottles? What vintage are you drinking now, personally, of the Volnay Cailleret?
So my dad used to say, I give you a warranty of 40 years. And I think for certain person it's really too short. But I think for some others it's really too long. What I like to drink, it really depends what I eat. If I eat a strong meat, you know, nice meat, and then I will prefer probably a young wine. And when I will go to something more tender, probably I would take a 10 year, 15 years, 10 years, sorry, bottle. And when I have nothing to eat, then I will take a 20 years. Then I will research something completely different. For example, I like the 99, 2000, 2002. Those years now, it's typically a glass of wine that I like to take with nothing else.
Yeah. I think that's a really useful sort of idea. I don't know how many people have taken that on board before. I've certainly considered the idea of more youthful vintages being, you know, more appropriate with stronger food, because perhaps the tannins are more prevalent, the structure is more there. But I love that idea. The older the wine, the less you need anything to accompany it. So I suppose when you get to a really great old vintage like 85, you not only don't want strong flavors, you don't want weak flavors, you don't want food, you probably don't even want company. You just want to lock yourself away and enjoy that on your own. But
exactly. Yeah. I have a good friend who said the good size of a bottle is for two. For me and my wife is a magnum, especially when she don't drink too much.
Yeah. I think the adage that a magnum is good for two people so long as one of you isn't drinking is very good. It means we just have to drink double magnums now, and then everyone will be happy and get what they deserve.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So any thoughts or comments on both of these wines, the 18 and the 09? Any comments? Please do unmute yourself if you're virtual, or I'll try and I can't unmute you guys at Taylor House, but I can ask you to unmute. But I'm sure there's some comments there, perhaps. Yep.
There we go. Anybody?
Yep, you're live.
Stage fright. Well, I've got to ask you, if nobody else is going to ask Benoit, I've been tasting this, my first vintage of this was 96. Yeah, this is an impossible question. What's your favourite vintage of this? If you were opening a bottle now, what would it be? Of this Volnay Cailleret? What's a point?
In fact, I have many favorites because it depends really of what we are going to eat together. I think I will take 4 or 5. At least.
Nice.
But I like warm years, so I think 2009 will be on the list definitively.
Yeah.
I think this 09 is a great tribute. It's a very Pousse wine, actually.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any more thoughts or comments before we move on?
I agree. If I may, I think the 2009 is a lovely wine. It's definitely a wine that you could see yourself having either on its own or with some cheese or something like that. It's definitely one of those late evening sit there with the cheese and the wine.
Nice, a sort of a contemplative wine, I think, and I know from experience how well these wines open up as well and evolve over time. So obviously that's not very easy with a 50 ml tube, and I imagine with the thirsty people at Taylor House, I don't see any of those bottles lasting the evening, sadly. But
Benoit, another really difficult question. Obviously, we're tasting two wines that are 9 years apart in bottle age. What will the 2018 taste like in 9 years? Will it be better than the 2009? More impossible questions. Yeah, but a real question for us buying wine. So what will the 2018 taste like in 9 years?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. This kind of taste, you will have it, but I not guarantee that it will be 9 years. It could be 7, 8, it could be 12, 13. And I imagine that it will be probably more 10, 11, 12, 13 years, because the concentration of 18 is higher than what was 09 at that time. But definitively, you will find, I will say, the big line of the wine.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Benoit. Thank you for those questions as well, Nathan. So unless there's any more comments, then why don't we move on to, I would say your famous monopole, but of course, I'm conscious that we have more than one monopole, of course, in the Domaine. So Benoit, let's move on now and talk about the famous Clos de Pousse d'Or from Pousse d'Or.
Yes, so Clos de la Bousse d'Or. So it's one of our three monopole in Volnay. So this parcel is really in the middle of Volnay. You cannot miss it. If you go to Volnay, you will see it because it's right in the middle. It's quite a good size parcel. It's around 2 hectares. And the plant has been done every 10 years since 58. So you have young part and very old part. So it's nicely, it's a nice mix.
And I think once again, we have got an array of pretty old vines here as well, I think. What are the oldest vines in the parcel?
And this one it was planted 57, so it makes almost 6 years. But for example, in some vineyards we have a vine which has more than 100 years.
Wow!
So, but the thing is, they don't make grapes anymore. They make very small grapes, perfect grapes. I mean, the small berry like we want, concentration is on the top, but the production is very small.
Yes, I suppose that's the challenge that you always have with very old vines is they contribute a huge amount of character to a wine, but there's a very small number of grapes, so it becomes a question of diminishing returns. When will you replant those vines from 1957? Surely they're coming to the end of their useful life now.
It's a big question. It's our philosophy is to say when we have no more choice. We don't really care about the quantity, but at one point, when you have nothing in the line, you have to take a decision. So we push this time as much as possible, and in our 60 ouvres, we have probably 10 or 15% of the parcel, which is so old, so beautiful. But they don't make anything anymore, and but every year we say, okay, we will see this next year. We really have to work on it, but we are timid, I will say, to take our decision.
Well, I think that makes perfect sense. I imagine you would be very reticent to dig up and turf over these old vines when they're, you know, they're sort of part of the family. It's you know, they've been there forever, so it must be very difficult. But I suppose
Tom and Benoit, a couple of questions here. So quite a few people are asking about, is this a monopole? And also, can you tell us something about the underlying soil and geology difference between this and the Cailleret that we tasted earlier?
Yes, it is a monopole. What is a monopole? You have to have two things to have a monopole. The first has to be closed by, it has to be a clos. On a clos, it means that your parcel is closed by 3 walls. So it's definitively a monopole. And the second reason is that you have to be the only owner. So if I take Clos de Lambray, unfortunately, a very small part, maybe 2 or 3% of the parcel doesn't belong to LVMH. So it's not a monopole. It's almost a monopole. It's not a monopole. The monopole is quite a change because you are the only one to have the parcel. Tart, for example, Romanèe, Conti, of course, are monopole. Between the soil, we are not very far from Cailleret, and on the soil, it's a little bit deeper than the Cailleret that we have. Not 60 ouvres. 60 ouvres is definitively, the soil is very, how can I say, the Mother Rock, yes, it's really not far from the top. In Bousse d'Or, you have more soil, so it gives you more opportunity in a warm year to go to pass properly the year. So Bousse d'Or, it's more, I would say, the year which is really like a 4x4. You know, if it's very warm or very cold, they will be a very stable wine. And as you can see, it's a very feminine tasting. It's very feminine taste, sorry. And this is really typical Volnay. Bousse d'Or is really typical Volnay wine. That's why we really like it.
And one thing which I think I might have missed, or perhaps we didn't cover, but the name Bousse d'Or. What is it? I mean, it's the name given to the domain and the vineyard. What does it mean?
Yeah, but you know, in France, everything is complex in the vineyards. Huh? And in fact, before it was the same name. Pousse, the parcel was Pousse d'Or, and the domain was Pousse d'Or. And after the one owner du Vaublochet changed it to Bousse d'Or, and the guy after changed it again to Pousse d'Or. And after there was a new law in France saying, oh, you cannot have the same name on the parcel and domain, so you have to change. So the guy came back to Bousse d'Or, and so we stay here. We stop. We say, okay, we're going to stop. So there was one letter we changed. It is true, but definitively this vineyard is really linked to the domain.
Absolutely. And I believe it's Bousse, or Pousse is the old French for the earth. So it's effectively golden earth, or earth of gold. Is that right?
The main history idea that we have is Bousse. In the middle of Volnay, there was a big castle. We know that. And what they call the Bousse is a big part in front of the castle where you have the farming place. On this, the name should come from that. But at that time, no one was written. There is nothing. So it's just an idea, a story that we have.
Okay. So just before we move on to our final wine of the evening, I should point out a few things to our assembled company, that Benoit's wines are in very, very high demand, and we are extremely delighted to have got hold of these bottles for the tasting this evening. but also we've also been lucky enough to source various vintages as well. So we will be sending an offer round straight after this tasting. We have maybe 1 or 2 cases of a few of the wines. I think most of the wines that we're trying this evening, and a few interesting back vintages, including 2015 as well. You know, another very solar year, and one which I think fits the narrative very well between sort of 2009 and 2018. So obviously, if you've enjoyed the wines this evening, and you can recognize the potential of this young 2018 vintage, then please do give some attention to the vintages that we have been able to source. It's certainly quite a treat to get hold of them. They are not easy these days. Burgundy, as you'll know, is becoming more and more of a sought-after commodity, and Benoit's wines are absolutely at the top of that particular tree. So we are very, very pleased indeed to have got some of these wonderful wines to offer you afterwards. And now we shall move on to our Grand Cru wine, the Coton Clos du Roi. Yep. Which I think is a fabulous, fabulous wine to conclude proceedings. And it's your only Grand Cru Côte de Beaune wine. Am I right in saying that, Benoit?
Almost. We have the Chevalier Montrachet.
I beg your pardon, of course. The Chevalier Montrachet Blanc, absolutely, of course.
Yeah. We have Corton Bressan also.
Yeah. Ah, okay. So in fact, it's not. The simple answer is no, Tom, you're completely wrong. Very good. In that case, well, I'll be quiet and let you tell us about this this remarkable vineyard site. I mean, Corton, generally, the hill of Corton is such an important site for Burgundy, for the region. So please tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so Corton, of course, you know, they are very famous for white with the Corton Charlemagne, and also for the red. And as Clos du Roi is probably one of the best Grand Cru in Corton. So the parcel is 1.4 hectares, which is a good size for Grand Cru. And they was planted 42 years ago. For the half, on the other one is 36 years ago. So it's also the same, a good age, I would say, our vineyards. They are more on the top hill compared to Volnay. We are probably 40, 50 meter higher. And so the slope is a little bit also more tight. I don't know how to, sorry.
It's a steeper slope. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, it's okay to work, but I mean, it's no comparison with what we have in Volnay. Yeah. And I think it's a very good example of Corton. And you know, people, when they think Grand Cru, red Grand Cru, they every time, of course, think of Gevrey-Chambertin, because with the 9 Grand Cru, it's quite easy, Chambolle and Moret. And I think it's a mistake to forget Corton, because today it's quite of quality. It's very high, and in terms of price, is not as high as any Gevrey and Côte de Nuit red wine. The only thing is to choose the right domain where you take it from, like every time.
Yeah, I think that's a really fascinating point, Benoit, because Corton is within the hill, there are a number of sub appellations. You mentioned, Bresson earlier, Clos du Roi, Renard, etc. There's a number of different Cortons. So, and of course, because it's a hill, you can have vineyards which are facing in a number of different expositions. So I think perhaps it's been a challenge for consumers to get to grips with Corton because of the size of the overall designation. However, I completely agree that if there was one region, one sub-region, which has improved dramatically in the last 3 or 4 vintages that I've been tasting out in Burgundy, then it has to be Corton. It's no longer the sort of slightly underperforming younger sibling of the Grand Crus of the Côte de Nuit. I think it now absolutely deserves a place right at the head of the table with them. And if anyone's in any doubt, then do look out for great Corton from the last sort of 18, 19 and 20, as we'll see next year with the release of the 20s, are really, really fabulous wines.
Yeah.
A question from Rajesh, Benoit. When's the best time to drink this gorgeous young Corton that seems to have great potential? So yeah, when should we be opening
so,
this?
Of course, you can drink it now, but it's probably not the best time. At least you have to wait probably 1.5 years, 2 years minimum to start to think to open. And after, if you forget it in your place, but it's even better. It could be a good surprise when you find it back. It depends. People like sometimes really young wine, and I will probably take one sometime like this to if I have a good meal, and I would like a good Burgundy. But otherwise, I will put it on the side and wait it a bit.
Yeah. Raj and Pop, I think there's also alongside the fascinating idea that Benoit posed of having, you know, younger wines with certain foods, older wines certain different foods, and then no food at all with the very old wines. It's also worth bearing in mind the personal taste differences, but also perhaps a noticeable difference between the continental tendency to prefer more youthful wines and the typical British and perhaps even transatlantic palate, which prefers older wines. Now, that may be changing, but typically you would find younger bottles being opened in continental Europe and older bottles being more to the taste of a traditional British or American Burgundy drinker. Whether that's changing or not is, well, kind of up to all of us, but that tended to be the norm. So, yeah. Now, any more thoughts or comments on the Corton? Any burning questions? Nathan, are you wandering over to unmute? Good.
Yes, we have a question here.
Hi, yeah, I've got a similar question to the one Tom asked earlier about, do you treat the wines differently, how you vinify them if they've come from the northern part as opposed to Côte de Beaune? So Côte de Nuit, which is known for being stronger, more robust, powerful wines, and Côte de Beaune known for being more elegant and subtle. So is that just down to the vineyards, or do you treat the wines differently between north and south? And then also when you come into the Grand Cru, do you treat that differently from your Premier and your village wines, so that you spend more on the oak, more percentages of the wines going into it? Do you treat it differently to bring out that extra power of the Grand Cru?
Yes, it's a good question. In fact, it's a very, very good question, because if you treat, then you have an action, and then you can help to bring the wine to be what you would like the one look like. We don't treat it differently, because our main idea is to take the plant and to put it in the glass. So the less action, the less SO2, the less whatever you people put in the wine, the more you are pure, and the more you are linked to the plant and to the soil, to the terroir that we love here. So from a village to a Grand Cru, I work here with number of tank. And sometimes, because we change the tank, it is exactly the same way we were working. And the difference that you have here is absolutely not the human. It's absolutely only the soil, only the terroir. And I really believe it's important. Otherwise, you will not see this huge difference between the wine if we had a real action.
So Benoit, would that mean that you are not using a lot more new oak, for example, on the Courton than you were on the Village Chambolle?
No, I gave you on the Chambolle, I may be between 20 to 25. On in a Grand Cru, I will be maximum at 30, sure. Maybe 2%. So very, very small.
And whilst we're talking about oak and aging, your thoughts on amphora, for example, or other methods of aging?
Yes. So it depends what we are doing with amphora. We were the first in Burgundy to put amphora in Côte de Beaune and Côte de Nuit. But there is amphora wine. We are not making amphora wine. Our philosophy is to take the plant and to put it in the glass. This is our philosophy. So the thing is, with wok, you add something. The wood has some tannin. The wood brings something. So we said, hey, let's make an experiment. A try is going to find a barrel without wood who give you the exact characteristic with oxygen, because if you put glass or if you put something which is completely closed, then you don't have oxygen exchange. So we have been looking for which material could be the same oxygen exchange, and we find amphora. But we didn't choose amphora and then the philosophy. We wanted to use our philosophy, and we find this clay which is made to make amphora was very good for the oxygen exchange. It doesn't have the same value that the barrel, so we take big amphora to reach the same level of exchange of oxygen. So the élevage is only different, but all the rest is exactly the same. We are not looking to make amphora wine. We were just looking to make wine without any adding product. This is the main idea.
Understood. Totally, Benoit. Thank you very much. I believe we had another question from...
Yeah. Benoit, we have another question from London. I think this is about the terroir of the hill of Courton.
Yeah, hi Benoit. In Courton, in your vineyard, you've got some illustrious neighbors. You've got Romanèe Conti, you've got Montrachet. Do you own bits of that vineyard, or do you own like a slice of it? Thank you.
I didn't get it. If I have at the end.
I know there's a slight time delay there, so I'll repeat that. I think I got the question. Was your particular parcel or parcels in Courton, is it one particular strip of vines? Is it different parcels? And where are they located in Clos du Roi? Who are your neighbors? Who are your neighbors as well?
Okay. It's in Courton, we are lucky. It's only one parcel. So it's really located in the middle, and there is a small, very, very, very small house in the middle of the vineyard. So you can see it quite easy. I don't know all my neighbors. I know that on my top there is Latour, but Latour, you know, he has a lot of vineyard. And I'm not sure about the two neighbors. Romanèe Conti is not next to me, it's right after. But between us, I don't know who is it. I'm not sure. I don't want to say it.
But easy to locate though for future reference. Just look for the little house. Look for the little house on Courton, and that's Benoit's patch of Courton. Brilliant. Fantastic, Benoit. Well, thank you so much.